Good evening and welcome to the October 9th, 2018 Special Executive Session Meeting of the Council of the Borough of Ringwood. This meeting is being broadcast live and will be replayed throughout the week. Nicole, you have a statement of compliance, please?
Adequate notice of the special meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this special meeting by Mayor John M. Spear pursuant to NJSA 40:69A 179 through notice emailed through the following named newspapers and posted on the bulletin board at the Borough Hall on September 25th, 2018. The Suburban Trends and the Bergen Record.
Thank you. During the course of the meeting, please silence all your electronic devices. Nicole, can we have a roll call, please?
Council members Bolton?
Here.
Davison?
Here.
Peretti?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Martucci?
Here.
Council members Noonan?
Here.
O'Keefe?
Here.
Mayor Spear.
Here. Also present, Borough Manager, Director, Department of Public Works, Scott Heck, Acting Municipal Clerk, Nicole Langenmeyer, and Special Environmental Counsel, Wanda Chin Monahan, Esquire. Please join me and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The purpose of the meeting tonight is to, we did have two items on our agenda. The first one, to consider and approve the settlement terms contained in the consent decree and statement of work for the implementation of remedies for operable Unit 2 pursuant to the record of decision and exclamation of significant differences. We will not be taking any action on that. The final consent decree document is not yet prepared and hasn't been given to us from the Department of Justice to take any action on. We will be taking action on this second item to grant extension to the tolling agreement between the borough and the federal government, and I believe that's through December 31st, 2018. And Ms. Monahan will walk us through that in executive session. At this time, we'd like to open up the floor for general public comment. Anybody wishing to address the mayor and council on any topic, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Robin Canetti, 310 Lakeview Avenue. I just know that I believe the council was extended an invitation by the CAG to join us. We're going to have the new EPA Regional Director, Pete Lopez, for a tour of the Superfund site on October 23rd at 2 o'clock. I think an invitation to be sent to the council, mayor and council, it should have been. I was hoping that we could get at least some of you to join, to get up close and personal to the site. So I just wanted to have that on the record, not just in an email. Thank you.
Was that Saturday?
Pardon?
Is that Saturday?
No, it's a
Tuesday.
He's not working on a Saturday. It's 2 days. It's 2 weeks from today. Exactly 2 weeks from today, at 2 o'clock. We're supposed to meet at the gates.
23rd.
Pardon?
That's the 23rd.
Yeah, 2 weeks from today. 23rd, 2 o'clock.
Rich Eversbach, 120 Upper Lakeview Ave. So, I guess my question is, we've been discussing two remedies since, I don't even know how many years now, over a decade maybe. And our insurers will have agreed to pay for one of those remedies and not the other. So I've heard this claim on Facebook and other places here, actually, right here, that the EPA has stated that they would pay, that Ringwood is absolved from this. If that's the case, why would our current insurers agree to pay tens of billions of dollars for any remedy, no matter what it is? If we're by CERCA is the law that governs the EPA, if that's the case, why would our insurers, in good faith, agree to pay for any remedy? Which, from what I understand, there have always been two. Both remedies cover or put a cap on Peter's Mine, which is in the state, on state park land. That's out of our borough. So both remedies cap Peter's Mine. The other one gets a recycling center and turns a wetland into our old recycling center, and doesn't fall on today's taxpayers for past mistakes. The other remedy takes the fill, 90,000 tons of fill from the O'Connor landfill, dumps it into Peter's Mine, and like option one or remedy one or decision one, caps Peter's Mine. So both remedies, both decisions cap Peter's Mine. The second decision puts 90,000 tons of, or 90% of the fill coming out of O'Connor, and leaves O'Connor for open space, but it's gonna look like a strip mine. I mean, I don't know if that's the, if we're gonna vegetate it or whatever it is. But, so those are the two choices, and it doesn't make sense to me why the insurance companies would agree to pay for any remedy if, in fact, EPA is saying, or Circuit is saying that we're not absolved. It doesn't make any sense, and I don't think it's true. So,
Thank you.
Seeing no one, I move close public.
Second.
Roll call on closing public?
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Ferretti?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Noonan?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
And Mayor Spear.
Yes. Okay, thank you. At this point, do we need a motion to go into executive session?
You would need a motion, but Mayor, do you need to go into executive session for the extension of the tolling agreement? It's not really, it's up to
It's something
you.
we've already discussed 3 or 4 times coming out of
Yes.
exec. Right, we might as well do it in
It's-
open.
It's up to you, but if you
All
do
right.
go into executive session, you do need a motion to go in.
Well, while we have our special environmental counsel here, would any member of the council want to go into executive session for, I think actually, we can't
can
really.
only discuss these
We can
two
only
items.
discuss these 2 items, and one item is not quite ripe yet, and the other item is pretty straightforward and ministerial. Okay.
I don't see any need.
All right, then. Then I will ask, we will skip the executive session altogether, and I'll ask Ms. Monahan just to explain to us the grant extension of the tolling agreement, if you would. Maybe this is, hopefully it's the last time, but I have a feeling it's not.
Hopefully. Thank you, Mayor. The tolling agreement that's been entered into previously between the borough and the federal government is in order to allow the federal government to maintain their ability to file a lawsuit against the borough. There's a statute of limitations that they're concerned about running out, after which time they would be precluded from suing the borough. So this tolling agreement extends that amount of time, and the tolling agreement was entered into a few years ago between the borough and the federal government, and at the federal government's request, it's been extended numerous times. I think by this council in particular, it's been extended twice, so I think you're all familiar with it, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. The tolling agreement, as the mayor said, is requested by the federal government to be extended through the end of this year, so through December 31st, 2018.
What happens if it's not extended?
If it's not signed, I expect, as they have done in the past, that the federal government will contact me again and ask me to ask the borough whether they would consider a further extension. Is it possible? I think it's possible, yes.
No, what's,
So maybe the flip side, if you don't approve the extension and the tolling period expires, then the federal government has basically a week to bring a lawsuit against the Borough of Ringwood for all the responsibilities they believe the Borough of Ringwood has for this particular Superfund site.
Currently, the tolling agreement expires on August 12th.
Not October.
Excuse me, October 12th.
October 12th.
Why is it just to the end of this year? How long have the extensions in the past been?
3 months.
They're always on a 3-month interval?
No.
That'll be the second year, right? Or it was just really, yeah, 2017 and through 2018.
Yeah, it's almost 2 years.
Yeah. That we cumulative, this is the 6th amendment to the original tolling agreement.
The 6th?
6th, yes.
They average about 3
yeah.
months.
Yeah, and you generally want them, you know, the federal fiscal year, that was this one. We're trying to get past the federal fiscal year, which ends at the end of September. So gave them an extension to, you know, October 12th, figuring they would get that consent agreement pulled together. That didn't happen, so, you know, now the move is to extend their time, to let them do what they have to do.
So should we not expect this by the end of the year now?
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question, right? Because if the
They're here,
impetus to get these people moving is the federal fiscal year, and they want to close up their business by, you know, some time that their bosses are looking at, now that they missed it, what happens next? What's their impetus? What moves them?
Look, I suppose, like anything else, you know, they want to get this portion of the site, that is this operable unit 2, the land remedies, finalized in terms of the obligations of the parties, Ford and the borough, to go ahead and start implementing this remediation. And, you know, they've worked on this agreement for many months at this point. They have gotten all of the feedback, you know, on behalf of the borough. We're sitting back waiting, and I've been following up with the DOJ lawyer, asking, you know, when we'll be receiving it, and we were promised it, as you know, the last week of September, because they wanted to get it in, as the mayor and Scott said, before the end of their fiscal year. So we went ahead and had you all schedule a special meeting so that you were ready, and unfortunately, again, the borough council was ready, the Department of Justice was not.
Doesn't the tolling agreement mainly have to do with bills and potential invoices they have?
Well, it has to do with all and any rights that the federal government believes they might have against the Borough of Ringwood, including past costs, present costs, future costs. So it would be all of that, including responsibility for the site itself.
And if it were to lapse, rather than actually just forego that opportunity, they're more likely to lodge a suit just to preserve their
Oh,
interests.
there's no question about it. There's no question in my mind that, you know, if they came up to the end of the tolling agreement and it had not been extended by this council, they would have to sue to preserve their rights. Otherwise, if they don't, they've lost their rights forever against the borough. And then, of course, if a lawsuit's filed against the borough would be in a position of having to defend that lawsuit.
And legal bills go up.
Well, I think they have the actual, the action they're gonna take against us. That document's completed, it's sitting in a little file. That's ready to go tomorrow. All right, it's the actual agreement that we're trying to, you know, to progress that, because they've had this, you know, that, they've had that action hanging over our heads for years, you know, since they reopened the Superfund site. Okay, is there any further questions, any further discussion?
While we're in discussion mode, if it's appropriate, you were talking about the consent decree, the anticipated, not timeline in terms of literal dates, but the steps that would happen, so what the process would be once you actually get the draft, if we can share that, that would be good before we close?
Yeah. Ideally, at least a week before the meeting, that we would have.
Yes, and Scott has given me that request continuously, and I have, at the same token, relayed that same request to the federal government, that the council members need at least a week with the document, so that you all have a chance to read it thoroughly, understand it, have questions, so that when we are ready to go into executive session, so that I can go over it with you, so that you all understand, you know, what the rights, obligations, protections are in the document, to ask me any questions in executive session, because this is a negotiated confidential settlement until it's all signed by all parties. So again, we've consistently made that request, and, beginning last, Monday, I said, look, our meeting is gonna be a week from tomorrow, are we getting this document? So,
And keep in mind that the Borough of Ringwood, myself and Wanda, spent the better part of a day in Manhattan with them in March and gave them our concerns and our edits, and we have gotten not really any substantial document from them since then.
I know that the CAG asked that the DEP revisit our application, I think it was.
Listen,
Okay, revisit the Ringwood Borough State.
We need to stay within this.
Oh, I thought that was, if
Consent
that
decree.
would be any part of the delay in getting the decree, the fact that they asked to review that.
what I've been told by the attorney for the Department of Justice is that there are some remaining issues that they, the EPA, Ford, and DEP are discussing.
I see.
They have everything resolved as far as the borough is concerned and the borough's,
Okay.
participation in the consent
Mhm.
decree, so we're ready. We're
All
just
right.
waiting on everyone else. And
Okay. And we don't know what the holdup is on their end.
we don't.
All right, thank you.
And is there a point prior to complete finalization, once it's agreed to by all the parties, is there like a public window on this as well, or does it only become available for the public once it's completely done?
So
Yeah.
under the circular law, the process as I understand it, and as it's been explained to me by Department of Justice, is that once the parties agree to sign and in fact sign the consent decree, it will become public at that point. And at the same time, the federal government will file a complaint against both Ford and the borough to have them be responsible for investigating and remediating the land at the Superfund site, all the things that are the subject of the consent decree. So it's settling the lawsuit before they file the lawsuit. And this is, again, their circular process. It has nothing to do with borough or Ford. And so at that time, there'll be either a 30 or a 45-day public notice comment period. But that is, again, after all of the parties have signed, including the federal and state agency. And again, that's circular's process, it's not the borough's process.
I know you didn't author it. And then, so that public comment window, is that, I don't have a non-glib way of saying what's the point, where if it's already like a signed deal, what's the 30 or 45-day window for if it doesn't?
I mean, that's, it's,
I know you
we're
didn't
not-
create it,
yeah.
I just, okay.
It's a good question, though. Is there any way to find out if that public period of questioning would have any impact on the consent decree? Or is it a done deal once it's agreed to?
Again, my understanding is that once the consent decree is signed by all of the parties
Mhm.
and the complaint is lodged with the federal court, then the federal court's next step is to also file the consent decree and then dismiss that lawsuit as a final settlement. And that, again, that 30, 45-day public comment period comes in between that time. So, whether or not there is an opportunity for the federal government to, change their minds, but at that point, they've already signed the consent decree, I think it would be difficult. I suppose, when it does go to the judge, it's generally, just a matter of pro forma with the court, but I suppose it's possible that a judge could look at the complaint, look at the consent decree, and decide not to enter it, not to lodge it. But, the general experience is that, it's, if everyone has signed off on it, it would be hard for a judge to substitute their opinion for the parties who are agreeing to it.
But the consent decree mirrors the ROD, basically. So it would be a function of, does this document not mirror the ROD? It wouldn't be a function of trying the whole process. It would be, here's the document that was presented to us, here's the document that ties the parties to that ROD, and it's a settlement thereof. So it would have to be something technical within the two documents that are not in parallel, I would assume.
Yes.
Yes.
So if the ROD were to change, the consent decree might change.
Would have to change.
Any further questions? Do we have a motion for resolution number 2018-191?
Mayor, why don't we read this into the record?
Sure. Whereas, this is resolution number 2018-191. It's up for discussion. Whereas, the Borough of Ringwood authorized a tolling agreement with US EPA relative to the Upper Ringwood site. And whereas, the agreement is due to expire on October 12, 2018. Now therefore be it resolved that the Municipal Council of the Borough of Ringwood hereby authorize permission to extend the tolling agreement until December 31st, 2018, subject to no objections from Carrier Council. And be it further resolved that the municipal manager is hereby authorized to execute appropriate tolling agreement on behalf of the borough.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Noonan. Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Now, time for discussion. We've already done that. Thank you all for your
I
favor.
got one question.
No, you don't.
That keeps on nagging me. Because the word tolling, I've never heard it used in any sense of accounting, legalese. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
No, I mean, tolling is really meant to stop a period of time from continuing to run. You're tolling that period, you're suspending that period. So if you have a deadline of November 30th, if you want to toll that deadline, if you want to hold off that deadline from expiring, that's really what a tolling does. It's sort of like it's virtually like a timeout. The parties agree that this is just a timeout period, and generally in legal, potential litigation matters, it's usually given because the parties are trying to work out a settlement and not force a party to file the lawsuit in anticipation that their statute of limitations is going to run out and that their legal rights will expire.
Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Noonan?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Mayor Spear?
Yes. Okay, there being no further business, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton.
Second.
Mr. Noonan. Roll call on adjournment, please.
Councilmembers Bolton?
Yes.
Davison?
Yes.
Moretti?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Martucci?
Yes.
Councilmembers Noonan?
Yes.
O'Keefe?
Yes.
Mayor Spear?
Yes. And there's still Yankee game on. Time to go.